Today's video I'm going to, well, I just got done putting the Pertronix ignition in. I didn't video it. I mean, you know, there's millions of videos on how to put them in, and they're pretty cut and dry, pretty easy. You know, it's just take the points out, set it in, tighten it down, push the magnet on, hook the wires up, and you're done. You know, I mean, it's totally cut and dry. But that took care of the engine performance issue. The engine runs like a clock now. As you can see, it idled good before, but before when I took it off of idle, it would miss real bad and the timing mark would jump all over. It's as steady as a rock now when you give it the gas. A little bit of gas, it's as smooth as can be. Before it would kind of run really rough there. So I'm really happy I set the idle. Set the high idle speed, the curb idle speed, set the gap for the dash pot, which is 60 to 90 thousandths at curb idle. So yeah, there we go. Alright, I just kind of wanted to show that that electronic ignition took care of the problem. With a little bit of a misfire off. It was like just off idle, like 1500 RPM. The engine would kind of run bad. It runs perfect there now, so all good. And as you saw in the scope when I first got it going, it was point arc, so that you could see the points arcing on the oscilloscope, you know, patterns. So that took care of it. Super happy. Just one more wire running out of the distributor. Instead of one wire running out, you got two. And I kind of tried to neaten them up. And I put the flamethrower coil on too. The Pertronix coil. If you use all Pertronix stuff, follow the directions. They're very reliable. The one's been in the Bel Air for probably over 30 years, maybe closer to 35 years, and it's never given me a speck of trouble. So anyway, there we go. All good. Choke works, everything. You push the accelerator once the floor, start it up, cranks up on the highest step of the cam, hit the accelerator, it kicks down a little bit like it should. Choke comes off in a reasonable amount of time, and it just runs perfect. So I'm totally happy with the engine performance. Been running for a while. Like to let the moisture dry out of the exhaust system. So there we go. Now that the engine's off and you can see and hear a little better, I solder all the fittings and shrink wrap them so they kind of look nice and are durable. I don't, you know, I cut the plastic off the crimps, put them in, give them a light little squeeze, and then I heat one side and feed the solder to the other side, so when it gets hot enough it sucks the solder in. And then I put the shrink tube up and shrink it. It just looks a lot neater. I might even paint that with liquid electrical tape, we'll see. But that is how I don't like crimps, period. I solder everything and shrink wrap. So there is battery voltage to here, so I didn't need to run a separate wire to the, you know, to the unit in the distributor. That needs 12 volts in there. You can still run a resistor on your coil if needed, but I didn't. Now I did not use the original coil because, again, you know, I want like things compatible, so I use their stuff in the distributor and their coil. And it's just a, you know, so minor of a difference. To coil's just a little longer, but you know, it still looks good, and it runs good now, and I don't have to horse with cleaning points every spring or regapping, because when you change the point gap or adjust the points or the dwell, that changes timing. Every degree of dwell you change the points will change the timing 1 degree. So every time you fool with the points, you got to fool with timing. With this electronic doohickey, it's always the same, no fooling around with it. I reset the timing after I put the igniter in. It was 1 degree off, but I set it right on the money, and it's perfect. I mean, it runs right at the timing mark, just stays spot on. Doesn't Before it was hopping all over when I give it the gas because of the point arcing, and you know, like sometimes 10-20 degrees on the timing mark, but now it stays right exactly where it's supposed to. It doesn't hop around, and that took care of the points issue. I'm just not a big fan of mechanical switch for the coil. I like an electronic one for this. That's one place I do like to upgrade, is the ignition. Get rid of the points. Every car I've done, without fail, I've put a Pertronix in, and I've never had any issues with any of them. And you just get less maintenance. You know, now it's, you know, good to do, you know, tune up once every 10 years, and if that, you know, depending on how much I drive the car. The Bel Air, it's been probably 20 years since I put plugs or anything, you know, cap and rotor, done a tune-up on that car, and you know, it just runs good. So I replaced the vacuum advance on the Bel Air maybe 15 years ago, and checked the timing after I put it in. Timing was spot on, so you don't have to horse with tune-ups or timing or anything when you switch over to the Pertronix. It's just a good thing to do. So I'm really pleased. I routed the wires. You know, this thing sticks out a little bit, so I routed the wires to where they look kind of neat and where they're not rubbing on anything or touching anything. You know, and I shortened the length up so there's not a bunch of extra wire laying around in there, so they come up neatly to the coil. But that's the only additional wire, is that red one. Otherwise, everything looks the same as it originally would have. This is the kit number that I put in the car. It's kind of what it looks like, and the coil. Going around taping up all the holes, anywhere where paint could possibly get from the other side to this side, and I'm going to mask this off and get it ready to prime, and hopefully tomorrow I can have someone help me turn the hood over. I'm going to get all the hood and fenders primed up. All the green is masked off. That's time consuming. It probably took me 10 times longer to mask it than what it is to going to take to spray it with primer and clean the gun. Yeah, but I'm going to hang these, I think, from the ceiling with coat hangers. And the hood I'm just going to leave on the sawhorses. And I think tomorrow I'll back the car out to paint and prime in here. I mean, and I think when the car's outside, it's supposed to be a nice day, I think I'll take the door off outside. And then the primer will dry quick. And then I can start finishing up the little bit of welds on it and finish the welds and start getting it ready for primer and paint. I hung the fenders. It's just easier to do that with them hanging. Got the hood sitting on the sawhorses, and I think they're ready to prime. We'll get the Galaxie out and mix up the primer and start shooting it. Guess I gotta hook up the battery. Alright, the battery's connected now, and I already hit the accelerator once, so let's see what it does. Runs as it should. Alright, let's get the car outside. Fenders look really good. There's no, I put the primer on wet, so it was shiny and looked, and I didn't see any imperfections in the body panels whatsoever. I am going to block them, but I think it's pretty much well ready for blocking and seal and paint. Yeah, I don't see any dings or anything in the hood. Let me see if I... There. Camera's still on the tripod. But yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the hood at all. I don't see any... This is the other fender. This is the right fender. Yeah, they look really good. Like they're totally going to be ready for paint. So there we be. I like to let my primer dry at least 24 hours. They're predicting a bunch of nasty weather next week, most of the week, so I'll probably wait to block it out until about midweek, and then maybe later in the week or next weekend I might spray it. I don't know, Autorama's next weekend, and I kind of enjoy going to Autorama, so yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be painting next weekend or not, but I'm going to watch the weather, you know, because I don't want to put the Galaxie out without a door and, you know, a torn top and whatnot, so that is going to wait the block until closer to when I decide I'm going to paint. So I'll watch the weather and we'll go from there. Well, here we go. The door jamb is off, and I think while the door is off, I'll pull a sill plate, pull a carpet back. I can take this trim strip off, take the light switch out, maybe pull some of this weather stripping back. I think I'm going to paint, get these rocker molding clips off, and I think I'm going to paint the door jamb and the rocker panel up to this joint right here. So when I go to paint the rear quarter panels, it's a lot less masking, because I can mask the door jamb out fairly easy and paint it, and I won't have to really worry about too much of the back of the car. I'll cover the front up really well. And so I'm going to paint the jamb while the door is off, and of course I'll paint the jamb of the door. Door will be easy to work on now that it's off the car. I can finish those welds up nice and you know, make it look real good. And yeah, I've had some people say, why don't I just replace the doors? Well, first off, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find a set of doors that are in this good a shape. And second off, they're not in my budget. They'd be expensive to get like a 100% rust-free door, which is probably pretty difficult. You'd have to pay, you know, several $100s for it, and that's definitely not my budget. Right now, I'm at almost 10 grand, and that was my budget. So I'm probably going to go over a couple thousand because I have the chrome and the convertible top yet. And yeah, so the doors are getting fixed and going back on the car. They're not, it's just not in the budget to replace them, and I don't think I'd be able to find doors better than these doors. These doors are in pretty good shape considering they're, what, 54 years old. This rust here is what I'm going to repair right now. This is that big heavy steel part inside the car. This is the heavy steel. This is the door skin. That's the joint right there. You can see the spot welds. And then this is just folded over onto the steel here like I did there. So this will be an easy repair because it's only just, you know, like so. So that'll be super easy. And the rest of the door I think will clean up pretty darn nice. And like I say, I think you'd be ultra hard pressed to find a set of doors that don't need more work than these doors. And you know, they're either going to be dented up or they're going to be rotted too in the same areas. It's just pretty typical of these cars. And but you know, if somebody wants to donate a set of Mint or NOS doors, hey, I won't turn them down, but it's not my budget. And when I have the door off, the latch, I can clean it all up, lubricate it, and this is the lock part, and all that does when it goes down is prevents that from moving. And that's locked right there. I don't know if I can, yeah, I can't push it holding it with one hand, but you pull it back up and it unlocks it because it moves that, so that can move. These are your, those are your, what work that, the actual latch. So that's kind of the latch assembly, which, like I say, I'll clean up. This door is a bare shell, and I'll probably do the same thing to the other door, and I'll paint the jamb on that side too while the door is off. It just makes life easier, you know, when I go to mask to, and painting the car in pieces, you get a little better job. You get, you know, I can focus, if I can mask it right on this joint, and then when I paint the recorders I can mask it here. But then I can focus, you know, I can get this weather strip off. I can focus getting the paint nicely everywhere where it needs to go, all the nooks and crannies. I can clean all this up so it looks nice and pretty. You know, clean it all up, make it look like new in here, and probably look better than new. But I just kind of wanted to point out the fact that that's what I decided I'm gonna paint the jambs, and probably the door too. So I'll paint the door with it sitting like that, but I want to paint this side, so I'll flip the door over, and when I paint the door jamb on the car, I'll paint the jamb on that, and I'll use the gallon of paint I got for the jambs and the underside of the hood and the inside of the trunk to paint that and this, because you won't notice if it isn't a absolute 100% perfect match, which I believe it will be. And then I'll paint the outer. I have a separate gallon for all the outer body. And people, my dad even was like, well, aren't you worried about the paint not matching? And I said to my dad, well, do you ever remember me painting a whole car all at once? And he was like, no. And I says, do you ever remember paint not matching? He's like, no. And I said, well, and it'll be fine. So I think that's kind of a miss. Certain paints, yeah, weather conditions, especially lacquers. Weather conditions affect hues of lacquers, but acrylic enamel, it's not fussy. As long as you mix the paint the same, it'll look fine. And so I'm not gonna worry about it not matching. It'll match. Like I say, I've done lots and lots of cars, and I've never ever sprayed a whole car all at once, because I like to you know, do it in sections, because then you get a little better job. And like, you know, now when I go to paint this, I can focus on the hood and the two fenders and make them look super nice, and then I can do the door and the door jamb. Then the, you know, the quarter panels will be last, because I want to keep the convertible top on as long as possible to try and keep the interior clean. Now I have to hang a sheet over this opening here, maybe put the back window back up, but just helps keep the dirt out of the interior, you know, and less dirt, better. And once I get the door jambs and doors and everything, I'll put the doors back on before I, you know, go into the rear, and then I can take the top off, and then I can, got that hole to fix, and there's 2 or 3 little pinholes. I'll probably have to replace a little bit on the bottom of that. The other side just got a little tiny crease in it right here. So this side has 0 rust, and this door, the only rust that I can see is going to be right there, just like on the other door. So I'll probably save the repair template and just fold it the other way around for this side. You know, it's like a mirror image. This has got a door ding there and a crease down here. And the only ding, yeah, I don't see any door dings in the quarter. I just see this. This is a crease here. So I think it'll move along quick once the doors are done. We'll get into the quarters, and the time-consuming part's going to be putting the car back together, because I want to line everything up pristine. I want the doors lined up pristine. I want the glass lined up and fitting pristine. You know, I want the fenders to fit right, the hood, everything. So that's going to be the time-consuming part. I might work on the door a little bit. I might finish these welds, and then I got to strip the paint off. Let me fix this first. I don't know if I'm going to video much of that. It's all, you know, pretty boring watching a loud grinder go on welds or, you know, things like that. And but I'm gonna, after I fix that bit of rust, there was that one little brace by the wing window that needs a little tacking up, and we'll get the paint stripped off of it. Probably have to use a little filler here and here just in, because, you know, weld edges, yeah, I could take the welder and run another bead down there and grind it, but you always have a little edge from the welds. There's no getting around it. Sometimes a good filler primer will fill those in, but these are, I had some warpage on this part of the patch, not the body, but the patch. And I'm going to try and get in there with something and bump it, but welds are really strong, so I doubt that it's going to do much. So I'm probably going to have to put, and I'll put like Marglass, which is like a fiberglass filler, and yeah, really strong stuff. And when the door is all done and painted, you know, I'm going to clean the inside of the door, sand it all out in here, and clean all this out. When the door is all painted and done, I'll oil and undercoat the inside. The oil will soak into any remaining rust and stop it, literally. Oil does stop rust. That's about the only thing that does stop it. And then I'll put the undercoating down over the oil to help hold the oil in. And so when the car sits out in the rain, or if it's washed, the oil doesn't get washed out from washing the car. So that's, and I use one of those California car dusters, or I wipe the car down with a damp sponge and a chamois. The only time I ever wash them is if I get caught in the rain and they're really dirty. And otherwise I don't wash my cars. Just clean, you know, just, it's unnecessary. If it's just dusty, why hose it down and get water in all the nooks and crannies? But anyway, that's it. I'm going to call it a video, and if you like my videos, hit the like button. It certainly helps. And if you enjoy my channel, subscribe. I mean, you know, you can see this car back on the road this summer. We'll take it to some cruises and have some fun with the car when it's done. And again, thank you for watching my videos.